There's a piece of advice that gets handed out a lot in the photo and creator space. And I've said versions of this myself, so I'm not pointing fingers at anyone in particular. The advice is be consistent. Show up consistently, post consistently. Consistent action is how you build an audience. Consistent work is how you build a portfolio. Consistency is the thing. And I believe that for a long time. In fact, I structured a whole content calendar around it. I tracked whether I was consistent with my posting schedule the way that some people track workouts. If I missed a week, I felt like I fell behind. And here's what I've started to think after doing this for a while and watching what actually works versus what doesn't. For a lot of creative businesses, consistency as it's currently being taught is quietly ruining the thing that made the work worth doing in the first place. And that's a really strong statement, but I mean it. So let me explain. The word consistency has two different meanings that we've kind of jammed into one, and that's where the problem starts. There's consistency as reliability, which means your audience knows what to expect from you. Like you show up on time and you have a schedule that makes sense. And when you make something, it meets a standard that they've learned to trust. And that's genuinely valuable, and I'm not arguing against it. And then there's consistency as volume, which means you never stop. You always have something in the pipeline, and you think the gaps are a sign of weakness. And if you're not producing at a certain rate, you're falling behind the people that are. And that version of consistency is what's doing the damage. The volume version got popular because it's measurable. You can put it in a spreadsheet. You can track whether or not you're hitting it. And it gives you a success metric in part of your business that kind of feels murky and impossible to quantify. So I get the appeal. And believe me, I've chased it myself, but the volume consistency is built for content machines, not for people doing actual creative work. And when you apply it to a creative business, what you get is a lot of output and a slow erosion of the thing that made the output worth anything. So I want to be specific about this because I think it gets described in vague terms a lot. People say things like you're going to lose your passion or the joy goes out of it, which is true but not useful. So let me tell you what it actually looks like. When you're on a production schedule that you've committed to, regardless of what you actually have to say, you start making choices that you wouldn't otherwise make. You take pictures of things that aren't quite right because you just need content. Or you put out a video that you know is only 70% of what it could have been because there's a calendar that says it's got to go up today. Or you write a caption for Instagram that sounds like you but isn't really you because you needed something and this is what came out. Now, none of those individual choices is catastrophic, right? But they add up. And what they add up to is an archive of your work that doesn't actually represent what you're capable of. It represents what you were capable of under constant pressure, which is kind of an entirely different thing. I talk about this all the time. I put up a lot of videos that performed badly because I thought they had to go up because that's what the algorithm needed. And I was so wrong. They were garbage, and I wasn't willing to put my ego aside to see it. So here's where I have to be fair because the other extreme is just as bad, and I've been there too. Inconsistency is not freedom. Taking a month off every time the work gets hard and calling it protecting your creative energy is just avoidance with better marketing. And I've done that. It doesn't work either. The thing I've been working toward is what I simply call sustainability, not maximum volume, not feast and famine. It's a pace I can actually hold that makes work I can stand behind and that my community can rely on without me destroying myself to maintain it. For Generator right now, that looks like the Wednesday night live stream, another live stream on Friday mornings, then like a one scripted video a week. Some weeks the scripted video is strong, some weeks it's meh, it's fine. But it goes out because I made it to a standard that I believe in, not because the calendar said it had to happen. And that's a distinction that matters more than it sounds. Now, I'm not going to sit here and give you a framework because I don't think the problem is you need a better system for being consistent. I think the problem is that you've accepted a definition of consistency that was designed for a different kind of work. So the thing I'd ask you to do is this. Look at what you've made in the last 3 months and ask yourself honestly what pieces actually represent you. not which ones hit the schedule or which ones got the most engagement. I'm talking about the ones that you'd put in front of someone if you really wanted to impress them. Those are the ones that matter. And then figure out what the conditions were when you made that. Then build your cadence around those conditions, not the calendar. Sure, it's a slower process. It produces less. And in my experience, it's the only approach that actually compounds over time because you're building an archive of work that stands for something instead of a whole bunch of work that just proves you were active. Listen, consistency matters. I believe that. But consistency at the cost of quality, at the cost of your relationship with the work itself, at the cost of actually having something to say, is just not a business strategy. It's a treadmill with better optics. So get off the treadmill, figure out your shit, and make the thing worth making. Now, I want to know what sustainability looks like to you or what you're still trying to figure out. Drop it in the comments. And if you've thought about all this and landed somewhere, share that too, because I think this is a conversation that our community needs to have more honestly than we usually do. All right, I'll talk to you soon.